On a sunny afternoon in a peaceful public park, William Bill Carter sat on a wooden bench, feeding pigeons and enjoying these surroundings. A soft-spoken elderly man, Bill exuded a calm demeanor that suggested a lifetime of wisdom. Dressed in simple clothes, with a well-worn cap shading his face, he blended into the backdrop of everyday life. To the average passerby, he was just another retiree savoring the slower pace of his golden years. What none could guess was that Bill had lived a life few could imagine. Life of extraordinary courage and sacrifice, marked by a deep commitment to his country. But as Bill sat quietly, a shadow fell over him, one not cast by the sun but by authority wild and unjustly. Officer Daniels, a young, brash cop with a reputation for aggressive policing, approached him. The officer had received a vague report about a suspicious man lingering in the area, and Daniels' biases took over. Seeing Bill's humble appearance and black skin, Daniels immediately assumed he was subtonig ood. "What are you doing here?" Daniels barked. His tone sharp and accusatory. Bill looked up, startled but not intimidated. "Just enjoying the afternoon," he replied politely. However, Daniels wasn't satisfied. His questioning became more hostile, demanding to see identification and accusing Bill of loitering. Bill, maintaining his composure, calmly explained that he was doing nothing wrong. The contrast between the twin was stark. Bill's calm dignity stood in sharp relief against Daniel's aggressive hostility. The officer's assumptions about Bill, based solely on his appearance, blinded him to the reality of who he was addressing. Daniels didn't know that Bill was a decorated war hero, a man who had risked his life countless times to defend the freedoms that Daniels so casually disregarded in that moment. As the encounter escalated, bystanders began to take notice. Some pulled out their phones, sensing that what was happening could not go unchecked. The scene was fraught with tension, but beneath it all was the promise of a revelation that would leave everyone, Daniels included, stunned. William Bill Carter's life was the embodiment of resilience and service. Born in segregated South during the 1940s, Bill grew up in a world where opportunities for Black Americans were few and far between. Despite the systemic barriers around him, Bill's parents instilled in him a deep sense of integrity, perseverance, and hope. His father, a factory worker, and his mother, a school teacher, worked tirelessly to provide for their family, teaching Bill the value of hard work and education. When Bill came of age, he made a life-altering decision: to enlist in the U.S. military. It wasn't just a career choice, but a calling. Bill felt a profound responsibility to serve his country, even though he knew that being a black man in the military came with its sounds of challenges. During the Vietnam War, Bill quickly distinguished himself through his bravery and tactical intelligence. In one harrowing mission, his unit was ambushed deep in enemy territory. Why, with their survival on the line, Bill took charge, devising a plan to lead his comrades to save it. Why? His actions that earned him the Bronze Star for valor. On another occasion, Bill risked his life to save a wounded soldier under heavy fire, an act that led to him being awarded the Silver Star. Despite his heroics, Bill never sought recognition. To him, it wasn't about medals or accolades. It was about doing the right thing. After retiring from the military, Bill returned to civilian life, choosing a path of quiet humility. He became a mentor to young veterans, volunteering his time to help them transit on back into society. He also spent years advocating for better resources for veterans, particularly those who faced homelessness or struggled with mental health issues. For Bill, Serving others was a lifelong mission, and he did it without fanfare or expectation of reward. Yet for all his contributions, Bill remained an unsung hero. To the casual observer, he was just an elderly man enjoying a quietly fay. This anonymity suited him just fine, until the day his unassuming presence was judged by an officer who so only stereotype isn't failed to recognize the extraordinary men sitting before him. Officer Daniel had been on the force for 8 years, and while he wasn't the department's most seasoned officer, he carried himself with the swagger of some who believed he had seen it all. Unfortunately, his confidence often veered into arrogance. Daniels was known for making snap judgments, frequently acting on assumptions rather than facts. To him, authority was a tool to assert dominance or at her to serve and protect. When Daniels approached Bill in the park, his biases kicked in immediately. Here was an elderly black man, sitting alone in an upscale neighborhood park. In Daniels' mind, Bill didn't belong there. He didn't stop to ask himself why he thought that inside or whether Bill had every right to be the Instead, he saw what he wanted to see. Someone to control, someone to question. "Do you even live around here?" Daniels demanded, his tone dripping with condescension. Without giving Bill a chance to answer, he began peppering him with questions about his purpose in the park and why he was there. Daniel's body language was aggressive, his hand hovering near his holster as he Fred why to escalate at the slightest provocation. What Daniels didn't know was that Bill had faced far worse than an overzealous cope on a power trip. He had faced enemies on the battlefield, navigated life or death situations, and endured the systemic racismo face agrega Ted military. Bill's calm demeanor. Snit passivity. It was the quiet strength of Feynman who had nothing to prove and no reason to fear. But Daniels couldn't see that. To him, Bill was just an elderly man who didn't fit the image of the park's typical visitors. The officer's actions highlighted a broad issue, the danger of relying on stereotypes and prejudices, which often lead to unjust treatment of marginalized individuals. Daniel's assumptions about Bill would soon backfire in ways you couldn't imagine, but for now, he remained smug and self-assured, completely unaware of the storm brewing around him. The confrontation between Daniels and Bill began attracting attention as nearby park goers noticed the escalating tension. Daniel's voice was loud and commanding, while Bill's calm replies seemed to irritate the officer further. "Do you have ID?" Daniels demanded. Bill reached slowly into his pocket to retrieve his wallet, his movements deliberate to avoid giving the officer an excuse to overreact. When Bill handed over his ID, Daniels barely glanced at it before continuing his line of questioning. "What are you really doing here?" he asked, his tone accusatory. Bill's patience was unwavering. "It told you, officer. I'm just enjoying the afternoon." The interaction drew murmurs from the crowd, with some onlookers pulling out their phone to record the scene. One young woman whispered to her friend, "Why is she harassing that old man? He's not doing anything wrong." Another man shook his head, saying, "This is ridiculous. He's just sitting there." Despite the growing crowd, Daniels Preston, seemingly unaware of the attention he was attracting. Bill's composure only seemed to frustrate him and his tone grew sharper. "If you don't leave the park, I'll have to remove you," Daniels threatened. Bill looked him in the eye and said calmly, "I'm not breaking any laws, officer. I have every right to be here." The quiet dignity in Bill's voice carried more weight than an argument Daniels could muster, but the officer, blinded by his own prejudices, refused to back down. The tension in the air was palpable as the Crow W continued to grow, their unease evident. They knew they were witnessing something wrong, and their phones captured every moment. What none of them knew, however, was just how extraordinary the man sitting in that bench truly was, or how much this moment would change everything as the confrontation unfolded. The onlookers couldn't stay silent. A middle-aged man stepped forward cautiously and sighed. "Officer, is this really necessary? The man's just sitting here." Daniel shot him a glare and barked, "Step back, sir. This doesn't concern you." The bystanders murmured among themselves, their frustration building. Some openly voiced their support for Bill, while others hung back, unsure how to intervene. The young woman recording the incident called it out. "Sir, we're all watching. You re-harassing him for no reason." Daniel ignored the crowd, but their presence added pressure. People began discussing the incident in real time, sharing their anger and disbelief at what they were witnessing. In their hearts, they knew this was more than just a misunderstanding. It was an act of injustice rooted in prejudice. Little did anyone know, the video being captured would soon go viral, sparking a national conversation and setting the stage for a moment of profound reckoning. The confrontation reached a new level of intensity when Officer Daniels, seemingly satisfied with flexing his authority, decided to detain Bill for refusing to comply. He motioned for Bill to stand and started to escort him to the patrol car, ignoring the growing protests from the crowd. As the murmurs of discontent grew louder, one voice arose above the rest. "What are you doing? That man's a hero!" The shout came from a middle-aged man dressed in a veteran's jacket who had just arrived at the scene. His eyes widened as he recognized Bill, and he pushed through the crowd to confront Daniels. "Do you even know who this is?" he demanded, pointing at the calm but visibly weary elder Lyman. Daniels, dismissive and annoyed, replied, "I don't care who highs. He's disrupting the peace, and that's all I need to know." The veteran stepped closer. "That man is William Carter," he said firmly. "He's a decorated war hero, one of the most respected men in the military." Daniels blinked momentarily, thrown off. "What are you talking about?" he hissed, though his tone softened ever so slightly. The veteran, undeterred, turned to the crowd and gestured toward Bill. "This man served in Vietnam. Hell-ed missions that saved countless lives. He's been awarded the Silver Star, the Bronze Star, and even the Purple Heart. And you were treating him like a common criminal?" The crowd gasped. Whispers spread like wildfire. Onlookers Googled Bill's name on their phones, confirming the veteran's claims. Daniels, now visibly uneasy, hesitated. "I didn't know," he began, but the veteran cut them off. "You didn't know because you didn't bother to ask. You looked at the man, saw an old black man out hot you could push around. You ought to be ashamed of yourself." For the first time, Daniel seemed to grasp the gravity of his actions. He released his grip on Bill's arm, stepping back as the weight of the revelation settled over him. The crowd erupted in anger and support simultaneously. Some shouted at Daniels to apologize, while others surrounded Bill, offering words of gratitude and admiration. Bill, ever composed, raised his hand to quiet the crowd. "It's okay," he said gently. "Let's not make this any bigger than it already is." But his humility only added to the emotional intensity of the moment. Here was a man who had given so much for his country, enduring not only the horrors of war, but also the systemic racism of his time. He remained calm and forgiving in the fact of blatant disrespect. As Daniel stood frozen, the veteran turned back to Bill. "Mr. Carter," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "on behalf of every soldier you've inspired, I thank you. You're a living legend, sir." The crowd began to clap, their applauses welling into standing ovation that echoed through the park. Bill, still humble as ever, nodded his thanks but remained focused on defusing the tension. It wasn't long before the locale police chief arrived. Having been alerted to the escalating situation by calls from concerned citizens, the chief, a seasoned officer with a deep respect for veterans, immediately recognized Bill and approached him with an outstretched hand. "Mr. Carter," he said, "I deeply regret what's happened here today. Please know that this department holds you in the highest regard." Bill shook the chief's hand but said nothing, his silence speaking volumes. Daniels, standing awkwardly to the side, looked like he wanted to melt into the pavement. Not. His embarrassment was palpable as surreal as at the depth of his mistake. This moment of revelation wasn't just a wake-up call for Daniels, it was a powerful reminder to everyone present, and that appearances can be deceiving and that every individual deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. For the crowd, it was an unforgettable experience, one that would soon reverberate far beyond the park thanks to the videos being shared on INI. As news of the incident spread, stories about Bill's remarkable military career began to surface, giving the world a glimpse of the extraordinary life he handled. Through interviews, archival footage, and testimonials from fellow veterans, the public learned about them and who had quietly endured so much. Bill had enlisted in the Army at the age of 18, driven by a desire to serve his country despite the systemic racism of the era. "I wanted to prove that no matter what the world thought of me, I was capable of greatness," he later said in an interview. His early days in the military were far from easy. He faced discrimination from both peers and superiors, enduring slurs and being assigned the most menial tasks simply because of the color of his skin. But Bill's determination was unshakable. He poured himself into his training, excelling in marksmanship, tactical strategy, and leadership. By the time he was deployed to Vietnam, he had earned the respect of his unit through sheer grit and undeniable skill. One of the most harrowing stories from Bill's service involved a mission deep in Nenamite territory. His unit had been ambushed, and the odds of survival were slim. With no clear path to safety, Bill took command, organizing a strategic retreat that saved Helivesov nearly a dozen soldiers. For his bravery and quick thinking, he was awarded the Bronze Star. On another occasion, Bill risked his life to carry a wounded comrade to safety under heavy fire, earning him the Silver Star. His courage and selflessness became Vestu of legend among his peers, many of whom credited him with saving their lives. But Bill's contributions weren't limited to the battlefield. After returning home, he became an advocate for veterans' rights, working tirelessly to ensure that those who served were treated with the dignity and support they deserved. He volunteered at VA hospitals, mentored young veterans, and spoke out about the challenges faced by his old years transitioning back to civilian life. For Bill, the medals and accolades were secondary to her relationship she had built and the lives he had touched. "Their all reward," he answer said, "is knowing you made a difference." These stories of bravery and compassion painted a vivid picture of a man who had given everything for his country, only to return to a society that often failed to recognize his worth. Yet, Bill had never let bitterness consume him. Instead, he lived with quiet dignity, continuing to serve others in any way he could. These stories came to light. The public's admiration for Bill grew exponentially. He became a symbol of resilience, strength, and grace, a living testament to the power of persevere and in the face of adversity. For Daniels, hearing these stories was a humbling experience that forced him to confront the depth of his own ignorance. Within hours of the incident, the videos taken by bystanders began circulating online, spreading like wildfire across social media platforms. Hashtags like "Respect Our Heroes" and "Justice for Bill" trended worldwide, drawing millions of views and sparking heated discussions about police misconduct, racial profiling, and the treatment of veterans. The footage was both heartbreaking and infuriating. Viewers watch it as Daniels harassed Anelde or Lyman remained calm and composed, despite the blatant disrespect. The video captured the moment when the veteran identified Bill as a decorated war hero, along with the crowd's growing outrage and the applause that followed the revelation. Celebrities, politicians, and activists quickly joined the conversation, expressing their anger over the Mistreats and to Faman, who had sacrificed so much for his country. "This is unacceptable," tweeted a prominent civil rights leader. "William Carter is a hero, and he deserves our utmost respect, not this disgraceful behavior." Military organizations also weighed in, sharing stories of Bill's bravery and calling for systemic change in how veterans and marginalized communities are treated. The Department of Veterans Affairs issued a statement condemning the incident, while fellow veterans flooded social media with messages of support for Bill. As the video continued to gain traction, pressure mounted on the local police department to address the situation. Protests were organized in the park where the incident took place, with signs reading, "Respect our veterans" and "End racial profiling." The public demanded accountability, not just for Daniel's actions, but for the broader issues of bias and misconduct in law enforcement. For Bill, the outpouring of support was both overwhelming and humbling. While he appreciated the recognition, he remained focused on using the moment to spark meaningful dialogue. In interviews, he emphasized the need for empathy and understanding, urging people to look beyond appearances and treat everyone with dignity. "This isn't just about me," Bill said during a televised interview. "It's about ensuring that noon, regardless of their age, race, or background, has to endure this kind of treatment. We're better than this." As the movement grew, so did the calls for change. Daniels found himself at the center of a national controversy, his every action scrutinized by a public that demanded accountability. For Bill, the viral video was a platform to amplify his message of resilience, respect, and the enduring power of kindness. As the viral video of Bill Carter's mistreatment gained traction, it did more than just spark outrage. It caught the attention of the highest-level soft government. Military leaders, public figures, and everyday citizens began calling for more recognition of Bill's contributions to the nation, both during his time in Vietnam and his years of service to veterans and the community. Amid this overwhelming support, the White House announced that William Bill Carter would be awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, one of the nation's highest civilian honors. The decision was met with unanimous praise, as it became clear that Bill's legacy was not just a matter of personal valor but a symbol of resilience and dignity in the face of systemic injustice. The announcement was a culmination of decades of Bill's quiet contributions, bringing to light the sacrifice she had made and the lives she had touched. Yet, for Bill, the recognition was never about the accolades. Ash prepared for the ceremony. He humbly told reporters, "I didn't do any of this for medals or honors. I did it because it was the right thing to do." The day of the ceremony arrived, and the nation watched as Bill, dressed in a simple suit adorned with Hisser Vice medals, walked into the East Room of the White House. Flanked by family members and fellow veterans, Bill carried himself with the same quiet dignity that had defined his entire life. The president, visibly moved by Bill's story, introduced him with a speech that detailed his military heroism, his lifelong advocacy for veterans, and his unwavering dedication to his community. The audience listened in awe. The president recounted Bill's bravery during the war. This manly rescue missions under enemy fear saved countless lives and continued to serve his country long after the battlefield, the president said. But perhaps what makes Bill Carter truly remarkable is his humility. He never asked for recognition, never demanded attention. He simply lived by a code of honor and service. When the president placed the medal around Bill's neck, the room erupted into applause. Tears filled the eyes of many in the audience, including those of Bill's family, as the moment marked not just a personal triumph, but a victory for countless veterans and individuals who had been overlooked or underestimated. The ceremony was broadcast live, and millions of Americans witnessed the recognition of a man who embodied the best what the country could aspire to be. Bill's acceptance speech was brief but profound. He began by thanking his family, his fellow veterans, and the community that had supported him. Then, addressing the broader audience, he said, "This medal isn't just for me. It's for every soldier who served with honor. It's for every veteran who come home and faced an usage of battles. And it's for every person who has ever been judged unfairly, overlooked, or underestimated. You are not alone, and you are not powerless. Keep standing tall." The event became a turning point not just for Bill but for the national conversation about respect, equality, and the sacrifice of those who serve. News outlets and social media were flooded with messages of congratulations, and Bill's story became a rallying cry for greater recognition of veterans, particularly those from marginalized communities. His Presidential Medal of Freedom was Moret Just an award. It was a symbol of their resilience and dignity that can overcome even the deepest injustice. For Officer Daniels, the ceremony was a sobering reminder of them and he had wronged. Watching Bill accept the nation's highest civilian honor, Daniels was forced to confront the full weight of his actions. This wasn't just about a single moment of bias or disrespect. It was about a lifetime of service that Daniel Elshad missed in an instant because of his prejudices. The image of Bill standing on that stage, receiving the applause of a nation, would stay with Daniel as a haunting reminder of his failure. The ceremony concluded with Bill surrounded by his family and fellow veterans, posing for pictures and accepting heartfelt congratulations. But Venetia celebrated Bill's focus remained on the larger purpose. He hoped that his story would inspire others to act with compassion, to challenge their biases, and to recognize the humanity in everyone that I encountered. In his own words, "It's not the medals that matter, it's what we do. With the time we rejuvenate to make the world better." The aftermath of the incident unfolded. Officer Daniels found himself at the center of a firestorm of public criticism. Social media, news outlets, and even members of his own department condemned his actions, pointing to his treatment of Bill Carter as a glaring example of systemic bias in law enforcement. For Daniels, the backlash was swift and unrelenting. The weight of public opinion, combined with the stark realization of Bill's true identity, forced Daniels to confront the prejudices and assumptions that had shaped his behavior. Initially, Daniels responded with defensiveness, issued a brief statement apologizing for any misunderstanding and insisting that he was just doing his job. But this attempt at damage control only fueled the public's outrage. People saw through the hollow apology, demanding genuine accountability and a deeper reckoning with the biases that had led to the incident. Daniels was placed on administrative leave while the department conducted an internal investigation, further isolating him from his colleagues and community. Left alone to reflect on his actions, Daniels began to experience a profound sense of shame. Watching the viral video of the incident, he was struck by his own arrogance and the casual cruelty with which he had treated Bill. He realized that he had completely dismissed the dignity and humanity of a man who had served his country with courage and honor. For Daniels, the memento of recognition was painful but necessary. It was a humbling experience that forced him to confront the prejudice she had long ignored. Seeking to make amends, Daniels decided to write a letter to Bill. In it, he expressed his deep regret for his actions and acknowledged the harm he had caused. "I failed to see you for who you truly are, and for that I am deeply sorry," he wrote. "I let my biases cloud my judgment, and it treated you in a way that was both unfair and disrespectful. It can't undo what I've done, but I want you to know that I am committed to learning from this experience and becoming a better person." The letter, though sincere, was only the beginning of Daniels's journey toward redemption. He also sought out training programs on racial bias and cultural sensitivity, determined to confront the underlying attitudes that had shaped his behavior. Daniels began attending community meetings and listening to the stories of individuals who had faced discrimination, hoping to better understand the experienced soft hose he had once dismissed. When Daniels requested a meeting with Bill to apologize in person, Bill agreed, though with his characteristic humility and disgrace. The meeting was a quiet, private affair, with no media or cameras present. Daniels, visibly nervous, expressed his remorse and asked for Bill's forgiveness. Bill, ever composed, listened carefully before responding. "Forgiveness isn't just about letting go of the past," Bill said. "It's about making a choice to move forward. I accept your apology, but I hope you lost this experience to help others and to make the world a little better." The interaction left a profound impact on Daniels, who walked away not only with Bill's forgiveness, but also with a renewed sense of purpose. For Daniels, the experience became a turning point in his life. He committed himself to becoming an advocate for fair and equitable policing, working to ensure that new Niels would face the kind of mistreatment that Bill had endured. Over time, Daniels' efforts began to earn the respect of his colleagues and community, proving that even those who stumble can find a path toward redemption. Bill's capacity for forgiveness served as a powerful reminder that change is always possible, even for those who have caused harm. Daniels' journey of reflection and growth read the importance of accountability, empathy, and the willingness to confront own sound flaws. In the end, the incident became not just a story of injustice, but also a testament to the transformative power of humility and redemption. William Bill Carter's story became a symbol of resilience, dignity, and the power of standing tall in the face of adversity. From the moment of his unjust mistreatment to his recognition on the national stage, Bill's journey inspired countless people to challenge their own biases and strive for a more equitable society. His calm composure during the incident, his grace in accepting Daniels' apology, and his unwavering commitment to justice reflected the values that had defined his life. For Bill, the incident wasn't just about his personal experience, it was about the broader lessons it held for the world. "We can't change the past," he said in an interview, "but we can learn from it. And if we are willing to listen, to grow, and to see each other for how we all are, we can create a future that's better for everyone." His words resonated deeply, serving as a call to action for individuals, communities, and institutions to do better. Bill's legacy extended far beyond the viral video or the presidential medal. His advocacy for veterans, his mentorship of young people, and his tireless efforts to promote unity and understanding left a lasting impact on everyone who crossed his path. Through his actions, Bill proved that true strength lies not in power or status, but in the courage to live with the integrity and compassion. As Bill stood outside the park where the incident had taken place, surrounded by supporters and wishers, he looked out at the crowd with a quiet smile. "This isn't about me," he said. "It's about all of us. It's about how we choose to treat each other, how we choose to stand up for what's right." Because
At the end of the day, it's not the medals or the recognition that matter. It's the difference we make in each other's lives. The crowd erupted into applause, a fitting tribute to a man whose life exemplified the very best of humanity. Bill's story, from enduring injustice to becoming a beacon of hope and inspiration, served as a powerful reminder that even in the face of a prejudice, dignity and resilience can light the way forward.